Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, colleagues on the head table. I'm going to be speaking on what is called Viva Voce. It's also called oral defense or oral examination. Slide 1, please. So I have an outline that I want to follow. First, give the definition or try to explain what we mean by Viva Voce. And then 2, what is the examiner looking for? Number 3, what are you supposed to do as a student to prepare yourself for the exam? Number 4, while the exam is on, how should you comport yourself? What are you expected to do? And the last part of the presentation, we'll be talking about after the exam, what next? Next slide. So the word Viva Voce comes from a Latin word which means living voice. It is an oral exam and it is usually conducted to enable students acquire a degree. The emphasis is that it is oral, not written exam. It is oral, not written exam. So during the exam, as a student, you are given an opportunity to speak to the work you have been doing. It's a PhD program, you have done it for 4 years. You are given an opportunity to speak to defend that work, to prove that you are the one that did the research. It's an opportunity for you to prove it. And it is supposed to be a honest conversation between you and the examiners. The examiners are usually experts in your area of study. Next one. I've said it, so during the oral, go back to that one. I've said it that during the exam, you are expected to speak to your work. It's not a written exam. And usually it is on your work. So you are familiar with it. There's no reason for you to fret. There's no reason for you to be afraid. And the oral exam is an important aspect of your work, of your research, of your study. Matter of fact, it is what concludes your work. So you've been laboring so hard on the research. Now you have the oral exam that concludes your work to prove that what you have been doing in the last 5 years, what you have been doing in the last 3 years, you are the one that did the work. So it's an important aspect of your work, and you should look forward to that exam and look forward to it with confidence, not being fretful, not being afraid, not feeling jittery. You should be happy that you have an opportunity to defend what you have been doing. You should be excited to be able to defend what you have been doing. Next one, please. Now, there are a few things that usually may come up in the course of your oral exam. You may be asked, what is the research about? What is the work about? What method did you use for your work? And what are the major outcomes of the work? In other words, what are your findings? What are your conclusions? Yes, next one. Now, the examiner, the panel is looking for some things. Number 1, the panel wants to be sure you are the one that did the research. And that's why you need to be confident. There's no reason to be afraid. It's your work. You've been doing it for X number of years. So you can confidently talk about. We used to say that the PhD student is supposed to be the latest authority on that area. Because you've been doing research on it. You've been on the field. You've been reading books. You've been covering literature. You are supposed to be the latest authority on it. And you should be confident to speak. So the examiner wants to see whether you are confident, He wants to see whether you are competent, whether you are talking as if you are an authority, whether you are talking as if you really, really went to the field, administered questionnaire, went to the field, did interview. Number two, he wants to know where your understanding of the subject matter. Do you understand what you are even saying? The method you have used, do you have a grasp of it? And then the examiner is interested, listen, this is very important, the examiner is interested in what your work has contributed to knowledge. What new thing have you done? What new thing have you done? And this day, listen to me very well, this day, examiners want to see what problem your research has solved. That's why part of your thesis, there's a section that they call statement of problem. In other words, your research must target a problem that is solving. So the examiner in the course of exam wants to see what your thesis, what problem your thesis has solved. How does your thesis, how does it relate to practical life problem confronting society? Very, very important. Next one, please. So, as a student, what are you expected to do before the D-Day, before the exam, before the oral exam? Number one, in the days leading to the exam, pay attention to possible questions that the examiners may ask you. I have some of these questions in this presentation that I can share with you. But pay attention as you read your thesis. Think over it, ruminate, meditate. What are the possible questions the examiner may ask? Number two, we suggest to students that you even do what we call a mock exam with your supervisor or with possibly some senior staff in the department. When my student did his post-field, I insisted that he must first of all do a mock presentation for me and some senior people in the department. I wanted to be sure he would be able to present his work without feeling jittery, without stammering. You know, so I told him, you will have to come and do mock presentation. So it's good if you can arrange with your supervisor to do mock presentation before the D-Day. Next one. Try and avoid any situation that will stress you before the day. It's your day. So you want to avoid anything that on that day you are feeling so stressed that as if it will affect your performance. Things you already know that you are the one that you have done the work. Now because before that day you have worked and worked. Now they're asking you a question, simple question you will normally answer. You are cracking your brain to be able to answer. Try to relax before that day. Now, you are free to take down little notes that you will take to the exam venue. You can jot down some things. And in the course of your answering any question you are asked, there is no law that says you cannot look at the note you have if you need to look at the notes. It is better if you know that I may need to check some things to remind myself. Write it down, small things you will take to the. There is no. That doesn't mean you will fail the exam. So, like I said, you are free to write down points. Speak clearly, accurately, and without contradiction. Clearly, accurately, and without contradiction. Answer the question with confidence without missing out any important point. One of the problems I have observed with people, when you ask them even simple questions like, what is your name? The first answer is, you mean me? As the two of us here now. Why? People you ask people question, they leave the question, they're answering something else. So please, and that's part of the reason I said it is advisable you can do mock exam with your supervisor and some senior people before the D-Day. And let your answers be straightforward. And I will advise, answer only questions that you are asked. What you are not asked, don't attempt to answer. You want to prove to the panel of examiners that you are very bright, you are very brilliant. And then after answering the question you have asked, you are veering into other things you have not been asked. You may land yourself in trouble. Because you give them opportunity to now take you up. So just limit yourself to what you have been asked. Next one, please. Before, I'm still talking about what you are supposed to do before that day. Get a decent dress you will put on. And it should be, in my opinion, a formal dress. Every dress has its own occasion. There is what they call a night dress, which you wear when you want to go and sleep. There is a dress for dinner, if you are going for dinner. We are going for a formal exam. I remember was involved in an interview. Some people wanted to come and take lecturing job in this place many years ago, and the young man entered into the panel room where he was going to be interviewed, and the chairman of the panel, the vice chancellor, sent him out. He said, "Will you go and dress properly? Where do you think you are?" And of course, he went for a long time. By the time he came back, he was no longer composed. You want to avoid that. You already know that exam is fixed for so day. Get yourself ready as to regards what. It's not on that day you are looking for iron all over the place to iron the dress. It's not for that money. It's funny. But I'm telling you, these are practical tips. So ensure that you are looking good. I tell people, before you tell me that you made the first class, the first impression of you is that the way I see you. The way I see you is what tells me the kind, like Yorubas we say, irinisi nisonilojo, meaning that it's the way we see you that we will address you. So if you don't dress neatly, you already put yourself in a disadvantage position. Many years ago, my senior colleague and mentor, Professor Olubomehin, you told me he was flying from a particular state to another state in the US. And that morning, he said when he got to the airport, one of the hostesses came to where the passengers sat before they were asked to go on board. And he looked at them like this. He said, you, he just pointed like that and asked them to please come. And when they came, he said, please, the pilot has requested that we upgrade you to first class because we don't have many passengers this morning and the pilot would like the aircraft to be balanced. So we are moving some of you from economy or class to first class. And those ones, the prof told me, he said, what informed that choice? It was the way he turned out. It was his dress. Because he dressed smartly and neatly. It's very important. I look at people because education does not mean that we should look shabbily. I hope you got that point. Get to the exam on time. Some people are perpetual latecomers. So if coming late to event runs in your gene, go for deliverance before that day, so that you will not be late. They will not be looking for, look, I tell people, if what you are as a student is what you will be when you are working. I have colleagues, I remember many years ago in UI, somebody was going to have an oral exam, and they were busy calling the subdean. They were calling him. He was nowhere to be found. And he knew that there was exam that day. The subdean Not even the student. The external examiner was ready. Everybody was ready. But the Supreme Postgraduate needed to be there as an observant. He was nowhere to be found. This idea of nonchalant attitude to things was something he never addressed. So on your exam day, it's not a day that they should be. And recently we had an exam in my department. I was asking the supervisor, where is the student? He said the student has not yet come. And I looked at the time. I said, at this time, should we be worried? If you know you will have problem, oh, permit me. Somebody has an exam in Lagos on Saturday and told me, I'm going to go and stay in Ikeja. I was even saying, why should you stay in Ikeja in an hotel where you will spend money? You can stay in Oshodi. He said, if something happens. I said, what will happen? Then yesterday when I saw the flood, I said that person was wise. That person was wise. That he will stay very close to the venue. God will help us. Be confident and believe in yourself. Be positive. Believe in yourself. Very, very important. No, after all, like I've said, you are the one that did the research. Next one. In the course of the Viva, what are you supposed to do? Go in with correct attitude. Not arrogant attitude, but confidence. Go in with the right attitude. Be positive, be calm, be confident, be composed. Do not panic. Do not be fearful. If you are fearing, even the things you know, you will forget. And there's no how you'll be telling us, I know, it's just the situation. There's no other way than this exam. The exam panel is looking, I've said, they're looking for confidence and competence. Avoid irrelevancies. I've said that. Only what you are asked. Answer the question as directly as possible. Stick to the time allotted. If they say, can you speak to your work in 15 minutes? Try to keep to that time. Don't let it be until they give you the first paper, you have exceeded the time. They give you the second, or you have exceeded the time. I tell students, keeping to time is part of the exam. And many times, the ones we say after the time is over, they are really not relevant. They don't change anything. So keep to the time. Then have a copy of your thesis with you. I've examined so many PhD candidates. Some of them will come to the Viva. They won't have a copy of their thesis. And the examiner will say, can you please go to page so. Then we'll be looking like this. Be looking like this. Then you say, the supervisor, can you give the candidate your own copy? You go there. You are there because of that thesis. That's what they want to examine. Go there with a copy of your thesis. At these points, I'm telling you, are they too simple? I want your reaction. Are they too simple? You're not answering me now. No. But we have seen this happening. Go there with a copy of your thesis and go with a note. A small note. That in case there's anything the panel says that you need to write, you can quickly write. Go with a note and a pen. Next one, please. Now, I have a few of the common questions that you may come up during the Viva. You may have a question like, in not more than so minutes, can you tell us about your thesis? 3 things that are key that you're expected to speak about. 1, why you pick that topic. And that is related to the aims and the objectives of the research. Clearly. Number 2, you tell us the method you used and why you chose that method. There may be many methods, but you have chosen this particular method to do your investigation. You tell us the method you have used and why you chose that method. If you use a particular theory, tell us why you chose that theory and not some other theories. The third aspect of what you are expected to say is to tell us the findings. What are the findings of your research In this research, I was able to find this, I discovered this, and these are the major contributions that my work has made to knowledge within the time allotted. It's as simple as that. Let me ask you, what makes your work original? That's part of the question you may be asked. What makes your work original? What you are expected to say is to tell us what is novel about your work. In other words, some people have done work on this area, but my work differs because of this, because of this, because of this. My work sheds the following new light on this topic. That's what you are expected to say. Simple, straightforward. Not telling us stories that are not related. You may have a question that say, okay, summarize the main findings of your research, or what you call your, usually for most PhD exam, you will be asked that question. What is the contribution to knowledge? So you tell the examiners, these are the new things that my work has contributed to knowledge. In other words, if anybody reads my thesis, he's going to thank me because of the following reasons. Because I've been able to discover this. This was the previous decision, the previous conclusion. I have disputed it on the basis of new evidence, and this is the new discovery that I've come up with. And this is useful to the society in the following way. Contribution to knowledge. In a way that nobody will dispute it. Yes, next one, please. You may be asked to talk about the methodology you adopted. Then you tell the examiner the method you chose and the reason you chose that method. There may be different methods that could be used for that research. However, you have chosen a particular one, then justify why is that one you picked. That's what you are expected to say. Then they may ask you, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your research? So you should be able to identify. There is no work that is perfect. So you should be able to identify what you call the weaknesses or the limitation of the work. You could have been able to do this, you could have been able to do this, but I was limited because of this. Oh, I could have visited places in northern Nigeria. I could have moved to different parts of the country. I've been limited because of the security situation in the country. So identify what you call the limited. Oh, I could have consulted this if this was available, but within this country, this material is not, and I made effort to get this material, I could not get it. So if you are reading my thesis, know that this thesis is limited because of this. Nobody will now come and condemn your work because you already identified. Am I communicating with us? Okay? Next one, please. Next one. After your Viva, what is the next thing? Of course, that day, you'll be very, very fulfilled and happy. So, celebration in a modern sense is allowed. Time for you to at least relax and say, all is well that ends well. So, moderate celebration. And after your celebration, proceed immediately to do the correction. Many times, the panel will give you time. They can say, oh, this correction is not much. You're expected to finish the correction within 2 weeks. Don't forget the time given to you. And until you submit the corrected thesis, the work is not yet completed. So keep that at the back of your mind. They may say, oh, within a month, go and do the correction. So you quickly, after your celebration, go get back to work, get the work finished with your corrections and so on. Then proofread your thesis thoroughly. Proofread your thesis thoroughly. I'm currently reading a thesis for a candidate I want to examine in a federal university now. When I was reading the thesis, and I'm like, how did these students submit this thesis? Because so many errors, language errors that I saw. I was the one correcting and correcting and correcting. And on the basis of the poor language used, the candidate may not do well. And these were errors that could have been eliminated. There's one thing I want you to know in the university. Part of our tradition is what we call peer review. When you do your work, give it to somebody to help you read. Give it to at least 2 people. You see, many times when you are the one who wrote that thing, when you are reading it, you actually, sometimes what you are reading is your mind, not what you have written down. And so you can easily omit some vital things. You know, there's a difference between the word not. If you say did not, it's different from when you say did and you didn't add the word not. And the word not can alter that meaning completely. Do you agree with me? And well, you can easily omit it. But that's why when you have written it, please look for somebody, quote and unquote, with a correct hedge. I'm sure you know what I mean. Because if you go and give it with somebody who cannot even write well, it will just tell you that after a while, he will return it and say, I've read it, and he has not read anything. So look for somebody with who that you know he will read this. And he will read it, will help you to correct. So proofreading is crucial. I always tell people, when you read books that are made overseas, by authors overseas, you agree with me that you hardly see errors. But when it is books produced locally, you see all manners of errors, and we quickly hide under what we call devil's error. You say it's a typographical error. When my students, when they come before, I say, which one is this? He says, the person I gave it to type. And I ask them, is it the typist that wants to take a degree or you? Whatever you bring before me, you are taking responsibility. You cannot come before me and be saying that because I gave it to them in motion ground. That's why they made the mistake. And at this level, I don't even expect anybody to be giving anything to anybody in motion ground. Like some of my students, they brought the work. I was like, why do you have all these errors? They said, maybe because we type it on our phone. I said, me. You brought your long essay to me to read, and you typed it on your phone. I thank God you have even exposed yourself. I said, because we don't have laptop. I said, well, you have to. I said, if you don't have laptop, go to the ICT center. There are computers there, free, that you can go there and do your work. How can you type your work on a smartphone and you are bringing it to me? Of course, they shifted all the load on me. Every line I was correcting. That may make any sense to us. There are some tools you cannot compromise at this level. A laptop, a printer, and all of this. And when it comes to arranging your thesis, you have to arrange it page by page yourself. Page by page. I have read people's work that when you get to page 90, they will omit page 91 and 92. They will jump to 93 and submit it like that. You have to check every page. That's why research is rigorous. I'll give you, I can say this. I was examining somebody for leadership position in a university. Do you know that person, some of the articles, about 2 of them were not listed and they were on the CV. And in that university, the way they do is that they will number the bound copy consecutively from number 1 to page 600. So if a page is missing, you will easily know that it's missing. So so many pages missing. I really wanted to help that person. I called the VC's office. I said, some of the pages are missing. Help me to check the copy with you. I hope that copy is correct. The person said, no, we don't touch anything the candidates bring to this. The office is just to process. They do all the thing by themselves. Anything they bring, we just forward. He said, but anyway, let me go and check. Can I know those pages that were missing? I sent it to the officer in the VC's office. He go back to me and said, sir, those pages are also missing the copies with us. And that case failed. Unfortunately, that candidate was to retire very soon. And so he couldn't get that promotion before he retired. Tell me, is that the devil or carelessness? Because some of these things, when we say it, it looks as if, what are they even saying? They can be very minute, but they can cost you something very serious. And for me, if you miss out those things, the way I look at you is that if you miss out this, if I employ you, you will miss out important things also in my organization. And for those of you who want to go into lecturing, if you do some silly things, and I'm sorry for using the word silly, I don't mean to be rude, please permit me. It means that you are not right to teach younger ones. Because what you don't know, you cannot teach. At the level of PhD, we expect perfection. Almost 100% error-free. Almost 100%. So, there are minor things we can overlook. But some things, like missing out some pages, we cannot. Using present tense when you are supposed to use past tense, we cannot overlook all that. So, and then, of course, you do your final submission. Thank you for listening. I have a few recommended texts in which I just added to the slides.